What's up everyone, John here. Today I have a new topic video for you guys. We're going to be talking about binge eating, food addiction, and other addictions in general, and how to deal with it and stop. So a lot of people do struggle with this. I get loads and loads of comments on my YouTube videos about binge eating. The term binge eating has been overused like crazy recently, and I think that a lot of people are misunderstanding what that is, because there's a huge difference between being on a severe caloric deficit or eating way below what your body needs to maintain its current weight and getting cravings and end up gorging on foods, as opposed to the eating disorder and addiction. So me personally, I have experienced binge eating like everyone who's been on a severe caloric deficit. I have loads of people who compete in bodybuilding competitions, physique competitions, and every single one of them after the show is complete has gone binge eating. It is just our body's defense mechanism against starvation. Our bodies are just trying to have a constant supply of energy to sustain our current weight and maintain healthy and survive, basically. The eating disorder of binge eating and compulsive eating and addictions in general are very different and have different symptoms like stress, depression, sense of not belonging. There are loads of different internal factors that get us addicted to certain things. People who deal with food addiction and do a lot of binge eating often feel like the food has control over their lives, and they constantly go into that vicious cycle of restriction, binging, feeling bad about themselves, and then repeating the whole cycle over and over again, which is horrible for your mental health. So personally, I have experienced a lot of binge eating because, like a lot of people, I have restricted my calories way too low. On the other hand, I have experienced to some extent a little bit of food addiction. Now, it's not as severe as a lot of people have it, but I did experience waking up in the mornings and just thinking about the food that I was gonna eat in that day, and that was pretty much all my day revolved around. I would always eat whole foods and eat healthy foods, but at night while watching Netflix or just chilling, I would eat loads and loads of junk food to the point where I would be really full, sometimes even sick, and I'll be really disgusted with myself. But then again, the next morning I would wake up and start the whole cycle over again. In terms of other addictions that I've experienced, video games is one of them, and it was not meeting up with friends to play video games together. It was me isolated in the bedroom in the middle of the night, playing as much as possible, barely getting enough sleep, and then going to school and sleeping in class because of it. I used to have really bad acne. I was always social and outgoing, but when I was alone and I looked myself in the mirror, I just felt an anger that was kind of uncontrollable. I remember feeling really angry and being a very negative person when I was alone. And playing video games when I was alone was kind of a way of distracting myself from the anger that I was feeling because of how I looked. I had acne for a very long time, and in the end I just had to face the fact that I was just unlucky. There is nothing that I can do to control this. I've tried loads of different methods, and I'm just gonna accept that this is happening to me and I'm gonna deal with it. I'm gonna try to be positive about it, and eventually I stopped playing video games once I accepted what I was going through and found peace in it. Another addiction episode that I've been through is cigarette smoking. In Europe, a lot of people still smoke cigarettes. In the US, it's not very common at all. But when I went to school in Europe, loads of people would just go out for breaks and just chill out and smoke a cigarette. So being part of the crew and being young and not caring too much about my own health, I did the same. So I started smoking socially. So after a while of social smoking, I realized that I had cravings for more cigarettes. And in the beginning, I just accepted it and I increased the amount of cigarettes that I was smoking. At some point, I was smoking up to 10 or 20 cigarettes per day. And when I realized it was getting out of hand, I just decided that it was time to stop smoking. And I remember deciding to quit several times, throwing the pack of cigarettes in the trash, being fined for one day, waking up the next day with cravings. I remember reaching my hand into the trash, getting the pack out and finishing the whole thing in one day. And that would go on for a little while until I really sat down with myself and figured out what is important to me and started thinking about my health in a different way. Because with addictions, you really have to have a good reason to stop, because if the reason isn't strong enough, if you actually do not care about your health that much, it's gonna be impossible to stop. Okay, so you are a person who is binge eating a lot. So what are the steps that you can take? One thing that I tell a lot of my clients is to just focus on eating a lot of whole foods and satiating foods that will keep you full for a long time, and eat very slowly, because if you finish your food in 5 minutes, you don't give your body enough time to actually feel how full your stomach actually is, and you'll end up eating a lot more or have unhealthy desserts right after your healthy meal. So increase the volume of your meals, have loads of veggies like broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, spinach, leafy greens, brown rice, beans and potatoes to keep you really satiated and satisfied after a meal. And this way you will not feel like eating a dessert right afterwards. You'll feel full for hours to come. A very important thing to consider when you're binge eating is that, you know, a lot of the time the binge eating comes from restriction, like we talked about before, the calorie restriction, and restricting certain foods as well is gonna trigger binge eating for a lot of people. So don't restrict the foods that you enjoy. If you have a healthy relationship with food, it's fine to restrict certain foods. But if you struggle with binge eating, it's not a good idea to create a restriction mindset. So don't say you can never have a chocolate bar, you can never have a muffin or a burger. Just tell yourself that you can have it, you just can't have it in an extreme amount. So you have to eat the healthy foods first, and then you can have a treat afterwards. Restriction is something that is, you know, a key component in the vicious cycle of binge eating. The cycle basically goes restriction. I'm not allowed to eat this until you finally feel the urge to eat it, and you give in to that urge and you eat and you feel horrible afterwards. And after you feel horrible, you decide to get back on track and restrict your foods again. And the worst part about this whole thing is that you actually feel like an idiot, you feel disgusted with yourself, you feel like you cannot stick to a healthy diet, you lose self-esteem, you lose confidence, and obviously low self-esteem can lead to other problems like depression and anxiety, all that kind of stuff. Also, a lot of people mask their binge eating by telling themselves that they're gonna have a cheat day after doing a week of very clean diet. That is not good, because cheat days just kind of reinforces binge eating, because it's a reward for all the restriction that you did throughout the week, and you can finally eat as much as you want. If you do that, you'll never get rid of food addiction and binge eating. You have to find a balance, a sustainable way of eating, because otherwise it's never gonna work and you're never gonna get out of that cycle. A lot of times addiction is caused by a few things like stress, loneliness, depression, anxiety, internal struggles that you're dealing with. So a lot of people turn to that food or that drug to find some sort of relief and to feel better. But obviously that is not the case. You end up feeling good for a little while and then you feel horrible afterwards, because we all know that the food that we're choosing to, you know, numb the pain, or the drug that we're choosing to numb the pain, is not a solution. It's just a temporary fix until you feel bad again, and then you have to run back to the food or drug. So the food that you're binging on or the drugs that you're using to numb that pain is not actually the problem. The problem is that pain. And that is the most important thing that everyone watching this has to realize, is that you have to work on yourself. You have to fix that inner pain, because otherwise you will never break that cycle. You have to accept and acknowledge that you have a problem, and you have to work on yourself relentlessly to try to fix it. I know a lot of people with depression, and let's face it, you guys probably know someone too. A lot of people are struggling with mental health these days, and a lot of times, at least in my experience and in the experience of the people that I know, it's because people are so conservative and they're so scared of talking about their problems. They just keep all the pain inside of them until it gets worse and worse and worse. So the main thing I think that will benefit the most amount of people is trying to be, you know, open about what you're facing. So first, it's self-acceptance. Accept that you're facing difficulties, that you're facing mental health issues, and talking to someone about that will do wonders, because we are social animals. We are not meant to be in a dark room typing and texting and searching stuff on the internet all day. We're supposed to be interacting with others and have a healthy relationship with other people, a community, a tribe that takes care of you and you take care of them. So that is a cause, and we have to fix the cause, not the symptoms. Another thing that I think is crucial is positivity. It's inevitable that we screw up, and we just have to be okay with that. We don't have to beat ourselves down and feel guilty all the time. Feeling guilty is what reinforces the belief that you have done something bad and that you don't have control over what you've done. So accept the experience that you're going through, go in without judgment on yourself, and just accept that it's just part of the process. Don't beat yourself up about it, because it's all about progress. It's never about being perfect. Also, if you can, try to distance yourself from your situation. Try to look at your own life from a third person's point of view, and try to realize that your emotions and your thoughts are not something that defines you. It's just something that comes and goes. It's just a bunch of clouds and a storm that is passing by, and eventually it will end. Now, if you're dealing with binge eating, chances are you're dealing with caloric restriction and trying to lose weight, and you know, you just have to realize that it's not about your physical appearance at all. You know, it's about health and longevity and you know, sustainability. So focus on daily actions instead of how you're gonna look. Physical looks will come eventually when your habits have cemented into your life and you just live a sustainable, healthy lifestyle. Having a big chest, big arms, a big butt, that stuff is just secondary. That stuff is not important. The human race will not be better off if you look like an Abercrombie model. It just won't. It's secondary. The main thing that we had to focus on is our mental health and try to do positive things in the world. So you've identified the issue that you're having. You know the area you have to work on to improve as a person, but still you're gonna get those cravings. So what do you do when you get those cravings? You have to write out those cravings because they will not be there for a long time. They will actually pass pretty quickly. Same for cigarette smoking. You will get those really intense cravings for about 5 minutes and then they will slowly die out until you're fine again, and then a couple hours later you'll get the same thing. But it's just about withstanding those 5 minutes of crazy urges. It's important not to restrict or ban certain foods or whatever, but it's also important for you to have the chance of getting better, not to give in to every single craving that you're having, because that way you'll just never get better. You have to withstand it, ride that craving out until you feel better. Another very important thing that I used when I was extremely angry is force yourself to think positively, look at everything with a positive light, and just realize how lucky you are to be alive, because there are loads of people in way worse situations than you. When you realize that your problems are very small compared to you know, other people, and even if you do have really big problems, just realize that it can always be worse, and there is always something positive that you can take away from a negative experience and grow from it. Also, try to distance yourself from stressful situations or relationships. Sometimes it may even feel impossible to break away from something that you've engaged in for such a long time. But you have to realize that, you know, in the end of the day, your life and health is more important than your friends who are doing something that is not good for them. And yes, it's going to be a painful experience to detach yourself from people who are engaging in negative behavior and find a new pack of people. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's worth it. And also move your body, get some training done, go to the gym or go for runs, do whatever kind of training that, you know, you feel motivated to do. If you think about it, exercising is the best kind of dope to put in your body. After doing a long run, you feel this natural high and you feel amazing, and that is something that a lot of people take for granted. And actually just the fact that we as humans feel this way after performing physical activity says to me that you should be doing more of it and that we're meant to be doing it. So yeah guys, get your training in, eat healthy, and really focus on finding out the reason why you're actually engaging in negative behavior.